senior correspondent for the Washington Examiner. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Hugh.
Are you a Nationals fan?
I am a Nationals fan.
So you're alive.
Yes, although it's generally been pretty miserable, about as miserable as being a UCLA fan and a Lakers fan.
No, it wasn't as bad as being a Browns fan last night. Let me tell you that, buddy. All right, let's get to the thing. I have talked to people on the phone, probably 10 calls now. They're all with the president. I am with the president on we're not leaving Syria, but we're straightening the lines and we're leaving that one area. Lindsey Graham's apoplectic. That's it. And Leader McConnell's outraged, and all the Democrats who won't pass a defense appropriation are outraged. The president's not going to turn on this. He's not going to turn on this. So what's going to happen?
Well, he might get rebuked by the Senate. I mean, there are a lot of outspoken Republican senators, and as you know, Hugh, Republicans in the Senate grumble all the time about Trump, but over the past couple of years, they have either because they have no choice or because they just got worn out, they don't speak out all the time publicly in this manner on everything that they grumble about. But usually when they do, it's a matter of U.S. foreign policy in which they disagree with the president, and this is one of those cases. And so I think part of this, depending on what the specifics actually are, because sometimes there's a difference between what the president says he's going to do and what he's actually doing, is that he didn't consult anybody, apparently, at least very few people. I mean, Lindsey Graham was getting some guff on Twitter for saying, well, if the news reports are true, then I don't like this. But the point is, he had to rely on news reports because the president didn't tell him what he was going to do. It's not that he's supposed to or by law has to tell the Senate what he's going to do, but it's helpful to tell your allies in the U.S. Senate, which do have some sway over foreign policy, according to how our system works, what he's going to do. There are reports that the Pentagon was caught off guard. So when you don't consult, this is part of it. But the other issue is to what extent we're really removing ourselves from Syria. There are a lot of Republicans concerned that, whether we should have been there in the first place or not, we have been there. We have been there to fight ISIS. We have made commitments to allies that have fought alongside us, and that if it is perceived in the region and around the world that we're simply pulling out because we got tired, that is going to have ramifications in the Middle East and in Asia. China's watching, Iran's watching, and that's what a lot of these Republicans are concerned about.
Well, the president's reply to that would be, I'm not going to fight Turkey over this strip of land. That's his basic response. And Lindsey's response is, then you're asking Daesh to come back. And I don't believe that ISIS is going to return because this strip of land is going back. And I have followed it for 10 months, and if anyone is surprised they weren't paying attention in October when I opposed it of last year, then I went with Bolton to Jerusalem and Ankara, heard all about this, dug deep into it. I'm just not surprised, given what the president wanted to do 10 months ago. So they've had 10 months to prepare. The Kurds are saying, we took down all our defenses. I don't believe that either. I think everyone's positioning to try and get the U.S. to stay longer. Has anyone said to you, any of the critics said, how long they're going to stay? And if any Democrats who have criticized them, and I've seen there have been a bunch of them, said, I'm sorry, we'll pass the Defense Appropriations Act, because all the Democrats who are out there screaming at the president, they are blocking a Defense Appropriations Act.
Right. So, with Democrats, I think it can tend to be a little bit more of opposition to the president. I mean, President Obama did things similar to this all of the time. They didn't argue too much about it, at least not most of them. I think for Republicans, it's not that they weren't prepared for what Trump might want to do. I mean, Trump ran on this sort of thing, and I think Republicans have feared from day one that he was going to do these sorts of things, and they're constantly trying to talk him out of it. And it was really interesting as a part of Lindsey Graham's Twitter threads. They're trying to get the president to reverse course. He's saying, look, this is what Obama did. And, the line of thinking goes, you never want to do anything that Obama does. You always want to reverse what Obama did. So, try and look at it that way. And I think there's just a concern that, regardless of how, some of the actual movements on the ground, the way it is going to look is that the U.S. has just simply gotten too tired to be involved and is bugging out. And you're going to have Putin and you're going to have every other country say you cannot trust the United States.
But now the reality, though, this is 50 soldiers moving back to that when NATO refused to supplement the force or take the ISIS fighters with us. It's not what Obama did in 2011, which was to bug out of Iraq with every single American troop, which led to the creation of ISIS. I mean, does anyone really make the argument that this is proportionate to the bug out in Iraq? We've still got we got thousands of Americans in Iraq.
Right. So number one, they're making the argument without using that comparison, but it's something that I think that people remember, so I'm using it as an analogy. They're making the argument that that is going to, in a sense, be the net result. But what I would ask you, even though I'm the one that's supposed to take the questions here, is why does the president then, if it's not the pullout or the bug out that people worry it is, why does he make it sound that way? Because I understand the need to try and fulfill a campaign promise, but what he made it sound like, you read the tweets, is that we don't need to be there, we're done, we're out.
A good question. The answer is we are focusing the world's attention on what the Turks do next so that the Turks are held accountable for if they do anything that crosses the line of propriety.